I'm more upset with Greg Biffle. He's the most unprofessional little scaredy cat I've ever seen in my life. He wouldn't even fight me like a man after. He needs a freaking whooping. I'm going to give it to him.
Good day, race fans, and welcome to the Intentional Wreck Podcast. Podcast made by...
Get it
Shut
out
up, Orville! Getting thrown off, man. Woke up on that right before this one, so now I can't.
We all three did.
All three of us.
Took a nap in preparation for today.
The Intentional Nap Podcast.
Oh, it's glorious. All right, here we go. I will try that again from the top.
If you don't think that's making it, then got one thing coming.
Good day, race fans, and welcome to the Intentional Wreck Podcast, the podcast made by race fans for race fans, from the casuals to the lifelong gearheads. My name is Jeff, and I'm here with my fellow hosts Corey and Finn, and you can find us on YouTube, Spotify, and iHeartRadio under the name Intentional Wreck. You can also find us on Twitter under the handle at intwreckpod. That's at INTWRECKPOD. We've got Finn back with us this week after taking a week off to handle some personal stuff, and now we've got the whole team, the whole squad is back together again. Corey and I are coming back off a trip to Richmond, and we will break down some of our experience there and how things went. We're going to go over the race. We're going to talk about the bubble. We're going to talk playoffs. Things are heating up in the season. Things are getting good. How are you guys doing?
I'm great, bud. I'm so glad to have Finn back here because we had like questions during the pod last week that we didn't get instantaneous off the top answers to.
Wait, so you see it like that, but I see it as there was nobody to go, well, actually.
No, Jeff asked a question last week that was like, what's Kyle Larson's crew chief's name? And I'm like, man, I don't know.
It's Daniel.
He's like, man, I don't know.
Yeah.
And it was like, if Finn was here, he'd just say this in a second and a half.
Well, that was one of the things that was getting me. I was like, his name right now, because the amount of times I've said that guy would be fun on a broadcast and would be good on a broadcast crew and should know it by now and just didn't. So
well, it's good to have you back, bud. Jeff, yeah. I've never been more torn, and we'll get into Richmond, but I've been processing Richmond since Sunday, and I don't think I've ever been more torn on how to feel about a sporting event that I attended in my entire life.
Ripped you up pretty bad, huh?
I'm generally curious, and you guys haven't even leaked what was going on with you guys, so I'm curious to hear. But I felt like you guys did a good job last time. I didn't get to give my little nugget because you guys were talking about Truex and how dominant he was at like New Hampshire, and you were like, I don't think I've ever seen. Well, fun fact that you didn't get last week. They once tried a restrictor plate package, believe it or not, a restrictor plate package at New Hampshire. And the reason was because Kyle Petty's son, Adam Penny, died at the track in a wreck. And they just thought it was not safe or not, something was going on. So they put restrictor plates on them. And Jeff Burton led every lap of the race, start to finish. So that is probably the most dominant short track performance of all time, second only to Kyle Larson's All-Star race this year, and then
which was insane,
which was the generational ass whooping. But and then we'll chat about Richmond before we get into that race. So what happened here? Give me the rundown, because you guys were so hype. It was like, we got sweet tickets, man. You broke the law getting into the infield. You got to meet this guy, all these people. Who did you see? What happened? And then when did it go bad?
Yeah, that's pretty easy. Let me throw out the disclaimer first. The first thing that I'm going to say about this is we fully understand that what we are about to say are going to be some of the most first world problems that you could possibly list in any scenario, and that the fact that this is being listed this way specifically is an attempt to try and tell y'all about whether, if you are thinking about trying to do this yourself, if you're saving up, you want to go and do something special for the NASCAR fan in your life, or you want to go and make something like this happen and you want to just kind of go see how this goes, take this review for that. if you're looking at this and you're walking away from this going, wow, these two whiny ass NASCAR fans are out here bitching about
that is possible.
bitching about the sweet experience. I do not care. You know what? Fair and respectable.
Well,
Yep,
there's
go
a
ahead.
difference between oh my gosh, we were not treated and pampered. How dare they, the peasants? There's a difference between
Right.
that mentality and hey, we exactly what you said. We saved up. Like it's not common, and you don't have to talk about the price that you guys paid, but ticket prices only have gone up in sports, right? You
Right.
can't go to a football game without spending 100 if you want decent tickets, right? Anywhere.
Yep.
The only real place that I have found that you can find cheap is the Nats games, but that's basically because the Nats are minor league at this rate,
Well, yes.
right?
So hold on, Jeff. Before we start this, are you comfortable telling the world what we paid for these tickets? Because I will.
I think it's fair. I think it's
Yeah, I got no problem with
all right,
that
so-
because it's going to
so
help provide yeah. Go ahead.
So here is what I have come to with this whole thing is that the only thing that I'm really upset about is I feel like it was more expensive than what it was actually worth. Okay.
The ratio is off.
Yes. We paid $350 per ticket for me and Jeff. $350 for me, $350 for Jeff.
That's more
So it was
than
an
I thought.
expensive. Yeah, so it was expensive, right? But we saved up each for it, and we wanted to do this. We've been talking about it for months. Everything that we're about to say about the experience, we can justify simply by saying, look, it is my opinion that this package is not worth $350. It is worth about $175. So I'd have had no problem what we got for $175. That's what it was worth, in my opinion, right? So
Right, and for
my-
reference, like what
right.
the track tickets themselves, every time we've gone, that again, just general admission tickets, sitting in turn
$50.
one, what $50 a head, and then
$50.
and then the infield where you can go and see right up on the garage. You can't go into where the drivers are and into the garage, but like there's a little area where you can walk along.
Unless
and
you're
see
Corey,
the cars.
but yeah, we'll get into
Right.
that.
And you
So-
can kind
so
of go
yes.
around Victory Lane and stuff like that's an extra $60. That was a $60 ticket
Right.
when we did those.
So for basically right. So what we got was basically a parking pass. We got a ticket in a suite, which was air conditioned, et cetera, et cetera. The suite had all you can eat, all you can drink, wine, beer, and food, and sodas and stuff. And then we got fan ground passes, which is basically the interior of the track, right? So thing number one, and I know Jeff just stepped away for a second, but he'll 100% back me up on this. The parking was sick. I
Okay.
will never not park in that lot again. Like,
Really.
if we're going to Richmond, we're parking in lot E, full stop. I will pay whatever I need to pay to get that parking because it was pull in. You get basically it has its own gate, right?
Okay.
So you coming down Carolina Avenue, whatever it is, right there in Richmond. You pull off. It has like its own gate where the big giant line is trying to get in. We roll right past them, up a little back road, and boom, we're there on like a gravel parking lot. Had maybe 200 spots, right? So the parking was 1,000,000% legit. That's the first thing.
Starting good. And you guys are still hyped. Like from my perspective off
Yes.
the side, I'm getting pictures. Like this is
Yes.
amazing. Like,
So
okay.
we were, and speaking for Jeff and myself, I think we were hype up until the point. So the package was also to include a credential, right? Like that we thought was part of like the getting into the fan ground pass and whatever. So we get to the track and we pop out. We're super pumped. The track is like 100 yards from our parking space, right? Like it's like right there.
Right.
We are
Get out.
seeing people in team
Yes.
insignia shirts
Yes.
in this lot going into the same area, multiple RFK shirts,
Yes.
multiple like
The guys
team
beside us
member-
pop out of a Mustang in their RFK polos.
Right, exactly.
Like that's the lot we were in. So like we get out and we're like, okay, we're just gonna pop out. We're gonna have one like White Claw in the parking lot just to celebrate being here. Now let's go get our credentials. We proceed to walk down to like will call and the VIP gate and the club level gate. We're asking everybody like, hey, lady told me on the phone we get our tickets online and we get our credentials when we get to the track. And these folks keep kind of bouncing us back and forth, man. You know what I mean? Like, it's like no one really kind of seemed to know what we were talking about. And I was trying to explain to them, like, yeah, we're in the Dogwood Suites, like we get these credentials, whatever, whatever. They're like, no, no, no. Just go into the gate and you'll get what you need when you get in there, right? And we're like, okay, because what do we know, right? We've never done this before.
Right.
So 11:30, and by the way, we were told we could get into the track at 10, but turns out we can't get into the track till 11:30. Okay, so that's another thing. So we're like kind of walking around the midway, which was fine. But it was just kind of like, this is when things started to kind of like, all right, maybe this isn't exactly what we thought it was going to be. So we get into the track. I'm just going to ramble, Jeff. Jump in or stop me, or if you want to take over at any point, let me know.
Yeah, well, I was gonna say it was like that beginning there, like first getting in there and not knowing exactly like where we want to go. We must have gone to numerous people. The reason why this was a thing that first was like setting up some questions for us is that the credential is listed as something that's part of the package. But not only is the credential listed as part of the package, as we're walking in, we're seeing multiple people with lanyards on. You know, so we were kind of under the assumption that like, okay, I'm not sure where this was coming from, but that was the idea. When I was told there's a credential, that would have been kind of what it is. Because I don't know if anybody's listening. Like, I know my first presumption of a credential is lanyard, little hard, plastic card, something that specifically says in this section, something like that.
Right. So it's called if you're trying to Google it right now, Finn, it's called the Dogwood Suites. That's where we were.
Okay.
So we get in the track, and to their credit, that we get in, there's like a private elevator that takes you up to that's it right there. There's like a private elevator that takes you up to where the suites are. So we get in, you walk in, they scan your ticket like from your phone, and you step in, and it's like this little air-conditioned elevator lobby. We had just been out in the heat for 2 hours, kind of chilling, walking around. Go up the elevator, start rolling to the suite, and you first walk into the suite, man, and it's like, oh yeah, like we have arrived. You go down this hallway, there's like very few people up there. Walk into the suite, you get the view was absolutely 11 out of 10. Like the view of the track was awesome. You're up high enough in turn 1 and 2 that you could see everything going on the track anywhere. Walk in, they have like a little basket of like some chips and pretzels and stuff. And there's already the suite attendants are in there. They're serving beers. The beers were ice cold. They had all the drinks ready to go.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very cool. So we kind of walk into the suite, and it's general admission seating once you're in the suite. There's no assigned seats up there. So you kind of walk in and just kind of sit down where there's an empty chair, right? So we kind of mosey down to the front, get our little spot, sit down. They served hot dogs and some stuff there, like about 11:30 in the morning, 10 or 12 o'clock. So we like had a hot dog, kind of chill, had a beer, got cooled off a little bit before we decided to walk down and check out the infield stuff. Probably about like 12:30, something like that.
Okay.
So up to that point, it was all pretty cool, right? And
private bathroom in the suite
private
too.
bathroom.
That was a
cool.
huge, big clutch touch. That was awesome.
That was a big get. So we walk down and we start going like we're you had infield passes last year, right? And it was ultimately we come to find that what this package included was exactly that thing that you had.
Okay.
Like fan ground access,
Right.
but not like the really, really cool behind the scenes stuff access, which we kind of both thought that it was as a credential holder, right? And that's kind of how they made it sound. Now, what ended up happening, and this is where the story starts to get a little funny for me, right? Me and Jeff, we go through the tunnel, we get our stuff scanned, and by the way, at no point has anyone given us a lanyard, a hard pass, nothing. What we end up getting when we go into the Dogwood Suites is a effing concert wristband, right? Like a blue Dogwood Suites wristband that just lets us up the elevator. Basically.
Like you're walking into the club, here's your wristband.
Right.
And also, I should add for the fan grounds, it was the same thing. It was
the same
wristband. So we had a nice collection of bracelets as we were walking around the Richmond Raceway.
So we get access to the red carpet area, like where the driver intros are taking place. You had that same experience. We got garage passes, right? We could go in the garage and see what they were doing. Now, by the time we got to the garages, most of the cars were already through tech and were starting to push out to the grid. So we're kind of walking around. I found Briscoe where Briscoe's car was still getting put through tech. So I sat there and watched his tech a little bit, whatever. And that was cool. It was very cool. But me and Jeff kind of start going like, aren't we supposed to get like some kind of VIP access or something? Like this feels like not what we thought it was going to be, right? So,
which is also, let's add, that's our
Right.
fault.
That's our
Because
fault.
it says fan grounds access, and we had
Totally.
never done it before.
It does,
So-
it does, but it's still. I will say this: the girl did not make it sound like that on the phone. 2, there's a difference between if you're going to put on the site credential holder, right? That sounds like media credential. That sounds like team credential. That sounds like something more than, hey, this is your regular ticket plus fan grounds access, right? That's our mistake. Fine, cool. So what ends up happening is we find the place where you go to enter like you have a hard pass, like where the teams go through. They're also pushing the cars through there, et cetera, et cetera. So me and Jeff kind of like get into this wave of people that are walking in that direction. And there's a couple of like, I don't know if they were security guards or like some kind of NASCAR official or something, kind of standing there in that pathway, kind of directing people to go the other way, right? Like, nope, you have garage passes, go that way. You can't get in the cool, like the background stuff. So this is where it gets hilarious for me. As I'm walking up to this guy, he's checking everybody, seeing who's got passes, whatever. And he's just like, if you have a pass, he's like, or if you don't have a pass, he's like, go left, go left, go left, and like further down into the garage. So I seriously get to him. He goes, go left. And I shit you not, Finn. I turn my head, I take one step to the left, and I turn and I just walk right down the ramp that he was like blocking, right? Like, yeah, cool. I'm going left,
Yep,
whoop,
cool.
whoop, and just
See
hit
you
him,
later, Ryan.
hit him with the Barry Sanders, and I'm out of there.
As this happens and Corey makes this turn and he gets through, I go to follow Corey and I get the hand on the shoulder like, dude, you stop right there. And this was where this was a whole thing because the guy literally like physically stops me and says, stop right there, no direction. And he stops me right as somebody is wheeling a dolly full of tires, like full speed through this area, like barreling towards me. And I'm like looking at that and then looking at him, and he's like, go that way. And I'm like, you told me to stop. Like, but it was dumb. Yeah. But anyway, then Corey got to kind of sneak in, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna go and hang out around the rest of the fan grounds and hope that Corey gets his outside the Beatles tour bus moment with Chase Briscoe.
I okey doke security and end up back in the pass holder area, like team people walking around everywhere, pit crew guys, sponsors, all this kind of stuff. Back where the haulers are, where all the drivers were. I just kind of walked around and like it was cool because I got to get super close to a couple cars, and I'll send you guys some pictures that I got. Like literally, I'm like 4 feet away as they're pushing the cars by. And I did see 2 drivers. The first driver that I saw was Carson Hocevar. So like I was walking down, just kind of walking by all the haulers. I saw a guy taking pictures, like, oh shit, I've seen that guy on TV. I know who that is. Carson Hocevar. So that was kind of cool.
Right.
Didn't get a picture with him, just kind of like stood there and just kind of listening to him talk for a little while. That was cool. And then I was like, you know what? F it. I got back here. By this time, I knew that I wasn't supposed to be. Right. Like it had occurred to me that I'm the only guy walking around without a hard pass around my neck. They're going to catch me and throw me out of here. So I kind of pull a move where I just kind of like quietly post up and lean against a wall across the little alleyway from the 14 hauler and standing there, wait about, I don't know, probably 20, 25 minutes. And then sure enough, I look over, Briscoe comes out the back of his hauler. A couple kids run up to him to try to get autographs and stuff. So I let the kids get out of the way. There's a guy sitting there talking to him, and I just calmly I think politely, we just walked up and was like, hey, Chase, big fan, man. Do you mind if I get a picture real quick? And sure enough, I end up getting a picture with Chase Briscoe, at which point I already know that I've had this like experience that I mean, honestly, like Jeff, you deserved it too, man. You
No.
absolutely
First
did.
of all, Jeff
Yeah.
already got his fucking experience on the
I was
first
gonna say,
Richmond
dude,
trip.
I have a photo of me standing on a Victory Lane stage with Denny Hamlin. I'm all right.
Zero
Don't worry.
sympathy.
Fair enough.
This man almost said, "Oh fuck you, old guy," to Joe Gibbs on his way to meet Denny and fucking.
Yeah, I'm sure that's what I would have said to Joe Gibbs. But yes, okay.
So that was the end of my experience in the backstage stuff. I got my pick with Briscoe. I was over the moon. And then all I had to do was get back out of there without getting thrown out of the track. So I just kind of head down and just kept walking and got out of there.
Yeah.
Met back up with Jeff, at which point we decided to go back up to the suite. This is probably, I don't know, 1:45, 2 o'clock by this point.
I'll take it at this point because
You
I
got
was
it.
standing out there in the infield. I had walked around. One thing that was really cool in that area that was awesome, like my favorite part of the day, honestly, was a lot of that infield experience. I got to go and be up right behind the pits and like get an actual up close view of everything from the other side. Lots of awesome. I mean, just the view from the infield is just really cool. I've always wanted to experience a race in one of the famous infields. I mean, Talladega is a bucket list item to go and party in the infield at Talladega and just kind of get that experience. But just kind of going, especially like just as a geek, like getting to go and stand right there on the garage. There was at one point I was standing there watching Ross Chastain and Christopher Bell's cars going through tech at the same time. And they had them both pulled up next to each other where their garages were at. And they both had ignitions fired. And at one point they were going towards the end and they both just revved engines all the way up, both at the same time. So the whole garage just got like deafening at one time. And this is one of those moments where I'm like, yes, this is awesome. You know, just being up close, like watching everything turn and, you know, watching all this kind of stuff going on. Genuinely just really cool. But then it was after that, I was kind of waiting around trying to find some shade, waiting for Corey to get out. Now, like Corey said, he gets out at that point. And we decide let's go up there because they said food was at 2:30. Green flag was 3 o'clock, but we all know that means about 3:20, 3:25.
Right.
So we head back up to the suite, and after being out in the sun for the last, 45 to an hour, it felt great to get back up in that AC. God, that was awesome.
Yeah.
So we get back up there and, just kind of cool down and get a little more comfortable. And then it comes time for food. And what they do at the suite, instead of, like here's like snacks to eat during a race or things like that. So actually, let me say this was the first time where I was like, hold on, this is a little weird. Walking back, we get back in and I go back up towards the snack table where they had all the chips and stuff before. And that same bag of pretzels that was there before I left was still there. And there was nothing new, like nothing had been refilled. Nothing was getting replenished at this time. And at that point, I was like, well, that's kind of strange because I kind of figured that was something that was going to be available throughout most of the day, that it was just going to be there, unlimited food. I was figuring they were going to be replenishing the food, right? And then what food was, they showed a menu and it was going to be a meal. Like it was chicken, pork tenderloin, potatoes, zucchini, a salad, a couple other things. Cool, pretty standard issue catered meal fare, I guess. And we go and get it, and Corey will attest from this. This was, dry, rubbery. the grade of the grade of the food was essentially somebody got married. It's catered. And everybody goes up to fix their own plate. And basically throughout, it was kind of at that stage where you were one of the last tables that got to get up and go get it. It's kind of like what it was, right?
Should point out here, by the way, this is a suite that holds 30 people.
Yes.
So by this point, we're getting ready for green flag. There's 30 people who do not know each other in this suite, all sharing these same amenities. Okay, so that should be pointed out here at this point. It was some really rough fare. Like some concession stand nachos would have been 100 times better than what they had going on up there.
Yeah.
So
the hot dogs to start things off were basically better than what that was. Like, yes. And I'll say this, they tried, like when you read the menu, you're like, all right, this sounds good. The execution just wasn't there. And that's going to be a theme on a lot of this as to where things just don't quite match up with what it was. So we get that, we go and eat, and to their credit, they're replenishing the chicken and the pork and the vegetables and stuff throughout the next hour and a half or so, Corey, something like that.
Hour and a half. Yeah.
And then they had dessert on the menu. So you had dessert bars, brownies, Rice Krispie treats, lemon tarts, and stuff like that. I'm sure a lot of that was good for anybody that got a chance to get it. The reason why I say that is by the time I got up there, which was literally within 10 minutes of them putting it out there, I got up there and there was like 3 scraps of whatever it was on this plate. So I grabbed something and came back, and I was like, oh, I'll just get some on the next go round. There was no next go round.
No.
Like they put out 2 little platters of
they literally
was.
They did not refill the desserts or the snack bowl at any point during the race.
We watched multiple people go up there to go and get their first round of dessert and never got a scrap, like never got a piece of that at all. Yeah. Like it was full on whoever gets there first gets the food, and that is it. Yeah. So that part was like, well, that's great. And then
this is where, hold on, let's remind everybody at this point, right? What we're saying sounds really kind of dumb and petty, right? These tickets were $350.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Like, let your boy get a brownie.
Yeah. Well, it's so this will be the theme. And let me wrap this to the theme, because eventually we should start talking racing at some point. So the other thing is, there were just little things. Is that eventually the sun starts moving, and towards the front of the suite, like it starts making its way into the suite. That's nature. That's whatever. But then the suite starts getting hot because like the sun just kind of starts roasting in. There was no point in which the, it started to compensate and cool back down. So that was another thing. They had the radio broadcast while the pre-race was on. The pre-race stuff was piping in nice and loud. You could hear everything. Matter of fact, there was points where you're like, all right, you can turn that down a little bit. And then the radio broadcast comes on, and it was faint. It was like you could barely hear it. It was not really there. So that was like just little aspects of this. But the theme of this entire thing is that when you go for a suite experience, when you go for an all-inclusive experience, and you go for something along these lines, it's the little touches that make it the special experience. And those were the aspects that were missed. They had all the roots. They have all the bones. They had all the aspects of that to make it a great experience. And it was all of the little pieces, the little touches, the little things like that make it special. Those were the parts where they really missed. So that was the part that was a little frustrating, was that it just, you missed on all of the little things. Like the credential part, here's the part that gets me with that, is that just a lanyard with a small plastic card, that's a sweet memento. That's a cool little souvenir. They gave us a race program in a plastic sleeve. It would be much cooler if I had that and I had like a lanyard to slide in there to collect with, right? It's like the food was one of those other things where it's kind of like, I feel like that it could have been better. There was an effort, there was an attempt that's cool, but shouldn't really be walking out of a situation like that kind of going like, man, this was bad. And when it comes to the small touch aspect, something I'm thinking about is, was anybody there vegetarian? Was anybody there, in that ilk? Because if you're thinking about it from that perspective, there was no entree that would have suited that. So somebody would have gone and paid that money and basically sat there hungry, or they would have just been eating potatoes the whole time, which that's, it's not really an entree, it's just like, it's those little touches. It's those little pieces.
I needed 3 things for me to be like, okay. Number 1, I need to be not sitting there wishing I had brought peanuts to a thing where I was told there was going to be unlimited food and beverage, and I'm sitting in this room for 5 hours, right? Like, don't make me wish I had a snack when you had snacks here earlier. That's number 1.
Yeah,
number 2,
it was all inclusive food. Yeah.
Yes. At some point, somebody walk up to me and ask me how it's going. That's thing number 2. We have attendance here, right? Like, somebody should walk around and be like, hey, what do you guys think? Is there anything I can get you? Something like that, right? Just that did not ever happen at one point. Nobody seemed to know what was going on, like the whole day. And then number 3, this one is just a me thing. you got to give me other options than beer and wine. Like, let's have a seltzer option in there. It was just pounded beers. That's just my thing. Like, don't get me wrong. I was drinking beers. This could be worth your while if you drink a lot of beer and wine.
Right.
But
and-
other than that, this is a $175 experience. That is my take.
So-
It was just kind of
So
And in comparison, like the thing that I'll throw this out there is if I have $350 and I take that to Nationals Park, Capital One Arena, to any of those places, I'm having that memory. They're not missing those small touches.
yeah.
Is what I'm getting at. Those little touches that make it special, they're not missing on that.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen.
So I got some
You know?
questions because we got to eventually get to racing. It's been a half
I know.
hour.
I
I
know.
thought about, and now I want to say this. I believe your grievances to be valid. Let's go ahead and affirm that there, because first of all, what is the premiere of the suite in that essence? Like, what am I paying for versus what's an extra, right? Well, not having to be in the sun was a plus, but that's not $350
Yes.
of things, right? But yes, not
Correct.
having to be in the sun. The food is a big thing. If you market as unlimited food and drink, not knowing what it is, honestly,
Keep it coming.
I would say every single person would say, "Is this just like? Can I just give me a voucher to go anywhere in the spot in the area at the racetrack and get unlimited food there?" And I present the voucher to them, and then, whatever.
Yeah.
Like, there'll just be like $10 vouchers out there. But like, catered food always sucks, and
Yes.
I hate weddings for this reason.
Yes.
If you want your wedding, you didn't come to a NASCAR podcast for wedding advice, but like, if you want your wedding to not suck, stop hiring those catering companies. It always sucks. It's always some slightly herbed chicken that
Yes.
didn't touch a grill. Just
Yes.
like, find
What
somebody.
you see in your head is exactly what it was.
Like,
I was
You're
seasoning my own
Go-
chicken.
Exactly
Put it
what it
that
was.
way. I
go
was seasoning
to
my own chicken.
go to your local restaurant, at Olive Garden or whatever, and say to the cooks, like, "Hey, what's your hourly rate?" And then they're gonna say $4, and you go, "Cool, I'm gonna triple that, and then you're gonna cook for my fucking thing." And you could still collectively 30 people's $350. That's like $10,000.
Yes.
The food
Yes.
that you can get. That's why I say weddings. Like, people spend like
Uh-huh.
$10K at a wedding. And it's like, you spent $10K. Hire a fucking chef. Holy
Yes.
shit! For $10K, get the
Yes.
fuck out of here. So like, that already has me infuriated, because it's like, first of all, NASCAR's BYOB anyways. So like,
And hold on,
Yes.
we were not allowed to bring coolers in.
right. So now you've taken
That-
away my
in-
BYOB,
Yes.
and you've replaced it with your shitty beer.
Yes. They did have
And
Devil's Backbone. That was a nice touch
So
to their credit.
and then shitty food on top of that. Like, just give me corn dogs for 5 hours. I don't care. Just
Yes.
That was
Yes.
that was the big thing. We were talking the whole time. We're like, I wonder what the spread's gonna look like, man. I wonder what the what's the
Spread?
food
He said a
situation-
spread.
we
Yeah.
wondered the whole time. We're like, what's
Yeah.
gonna be? What's this unlimited food about gonna be? Right? Because I mean, y'all can tell on camera. Corey and I are portly
would-
gentlemen. We are big
I
guys.
would never trust it.
We can hold it down at the buffet. Let me tell you
Yes.
that.
Unlimited
And,
food is like unlimited PTO, and you're looking for a job. Like, we do unlimited PTO. You just let your manager know. That's
Right.
It's a
I'm not
fraud.
expecting to go and close down their shit, right?
Now-
So
Yes.
it's not that, but at the same time, we shouldn't have been walking in there and leaving and going. It would have almost been better if it was just
Yes.
platters of burgers and dogs, from the
Pizzas,
concession stand.
nachos, hot dogs, chicken wings. Give me B tier ballpark food would have been better than what we had.
Right.
Times
Yeah.
a million.
Did you guys have TVs in the suite showing the race?
There were two small TVs at
Criminal.
the front, like
Criminal,
Probably.
$10,000
Yes.
for $350. You could have
Yes.
bought yourself a big ass TV. I
So-
need
yes.
big
So-
TVs that everybody
yes.
could see showing the race. Did it have the audio of a broadcast, be it MRN
Yes.
or okay? You
they
could
had
hear that?
MRN, but it was down pretty low.
It was
couldn't
pretty
really
hard to hear.
very much of it.
Okay, this is what I think Richmond could do to fix this. Okay, first of all, they don't sell NASCAR garage passes anymore. Those are given. They have VIP passes that are given to teams, and they allot those out. Normally, it's to sponsors. That's how Nate is able to get that access.
Right.
And why I was able to go to Bristol and be on
Right.
the infield, stuff like that. Now, I imagine some races and some tracks, but Richmond's just one of those tracks where the infield and everything is so small that I understand why they have their little thing, and then that's that's it. Whereas I think other tracks and bigger tracks, they have different experiences and things like that. But I find
Indy's got multiple holes of a golf course in there.
Makes
Right.
sense.
Yeah.
And
so that's just
that
the
is, by the way, that is
downside.
not part of my complaint at all.
Right.
Like
It
that
would be
piece of it, I
nice
get.
with that much money to have garage, but I can't remember if it was like prior to COVID or because of COVID, but they just don't do that anymore, which sucks because they used to. It used to be you could
Yeah.
buy those things and go in and see, but obviously they've got a job to do, and having fans everywhere might have been annoying. So there's that.
Totally fair.
I think they need to provide the racing electronics, the headset. I think for $350 for the suite, they should be able to give you guys those things so that you guys can tune into the driver's radios, because you guys could hear each other talking from in there, right? Like in the suite.
We can hear everybody talking.
That's good. So
Yeah.
like it would have been nice if okay, so that's cool. Like that's something that you don't normally get at a race, is the ability to just kind of talk to the person next to you without what.
Yes.
But yeah, giving you guys the racing electronic things and the ability to kind of listen in on the, because we did that at the track. Me and like we had to think, and we just couldn't hear the drivers' radios consistently because it's a short track and it's just constantly loud. It's not like the mile
Right,
and a
yeah.
half where everything's more spaced and things like that. So that would have been nice. That kind of give you like a little bit closer feel to the race. Like, cool, we get this cool view. We're in the AC. We get to hear it. We get to talk to each other. I feel like that would have been really good to like be able to have that. At least they had the TVs. But yeah, I think for that much money, I'm looking for something a little bit better. Maybe some kind of access to like a driver that does their scheduled like time for autographs.
Sure.
Like maybe you get
That'd be
like
cool.
priority for that, so you can get in the line or whatever. But no, like if I guess if like if two of the things were better, right? If the food was better, that it makes it kind of worth it. But
The
yeah,
bones were great. The foundation of what this could be was there. It just wasn't quite. If anybody listening to this is considering doing something along those lines, you want to do that to go have that experience, to be honest, you
Go
can
to
go
Nascar.
for half of you can go for half of this
Right.
and get a good ticket, BYOB, and go buy the fan grounds pass, and
Yes.
you're only in for
Yes.
$150 maybe. So for less than
Tickets
half
in the
of-
shade. In the shade part of the track, by the way.
Right.
Like it was just like Jeff said, it was a little things. I'll just close it out with this for me. If Jeff and I had opted to put together our $700 and throw another NASCAR soiree at my crib to watch it here with a bunch of people,
yeah,
we could have set it all the way off, bro. For what we paid,
Right.
Yeah.
we could have had a ridiculous great time watching this thing at home, and nobody would have left regretting a single
Finn,
thing.
you would never be without shrimp in
No.
that
You'd
circumstance.
have shrimp on top of your shrimp. bro.
600
Yeah.
of the budget was going to be for shrimp. Just to be
Yeah,
clear,
that's the shrimp.
it was going
budget.
to be $600 a shrimp.
But
So all right, let's talk.
Enough of the wines.
Yeah.
Let's talk about
Yeah.
race.
Let's
That's
talk
not-
about the race. So, from my perspective, the race was pretty solid. I will say this: I took a little cat nap just after stage 2 finished up, and then I woke up with the last 40 to go. And I would say I was thoroughly confused at the scope of the race. This looked like it was going to be the 23 and the 6 battling it off to see who was going to make the playoffs. Between the two, I mean, that 23 bubble was bad
Oh, he was
fast
flying.
out of the race. It was really cool to watch that highline work. There was the 6 himself, like he was passing cars all the way up to I think either 3rd or 4th place just on the high lane. So I really see what they were talking about last time when we were at the track, and how 3 and 4 was really an effective place to pass and use the outside. I did not see, if you guys remember from the first race, that high line that Stenhouse and Briscoe were running like really high in 1 and 2.
They were on it.
Well,
They were on it.
They were up
Larson
there.
ran it most of the day too. He ran most of
Briscoe
the high
and
line,
Larson. Briscoe and Larson were
Way
they would
high?
start their run at the bottom,
Okay.
and then as their tires would wear in, they'd move up the track. So there were points where Larson was running so high in 1 and 2, it looked like he was going to hit the wall.
Really?
Like he was way
Okay,
up the
so
track.
that
Briscoe was
line-
running up there too.
So it looks like, and you know what? The way Richmond works is like grip goes away in the bottom, and it's all the cars move up. And like I've mentioned before, there's a race in like the 2000s, 2010s where they were highlining it around Richmond all the way around. So I'm curious to see how many races that happens before that high line becomes truly volatile, because it looks like it was pretty quick. And Did you guys see the clip of Joey Logano's little restart at the very end of that race to kind of to take a bunch? I mean,
Yep.
that was really fascinating. I think
Yeah.
they kind of saved the race a little bit. Not that it was a boring one, but obviously these long green flag run races they're frustrating.
Yeah, there was no cautions until the third stage towards the end.
Right,
Yeah.
which was when
Suarez just
got
lost it.
wrecked, just
Mhm.
lost it. So, so tell me about what you guys saw. What happened to? Was it just? I mean, I knew Busher was fast. He was working his way up the field. I think he started deep 26-ish, give or take, 23rd, 26
like
for
that,
him.
yeah.
So, he was quick, and that's kind of how Bowman was when Bowman won at Richmond Queens Awards. He was in 20, so all these guys are battling up front, but he's just passing, but he had just never gotten up there until close to the end of the race. It looks like Busher found his way up front and then just was kind of gone. What happened? Did the 6 and 23 have mental lapses, pit road issues? What happened
Pit
during
road
line
issue
down?
for the
Pit road.
23.
Oh,
Yeah.
no way. So
And the 6. And
Slow
the 6.
stop. Yeah.
Yeah. Same for Keselowski. Keselowski had a slow pit stop and got mired in traffic, and that was it.
That was the
Jeez.
same with the 23 because he got in and it was towards the end on one of his other long green flag runs. He got in and just had an issue, I think, with it was somewhere on the right side, and it was either his right front or right rear just wasn't quite getting on fast enough. And then they got around, got the left on as fast as they could, but then they dropped back into traffic.
Jeez. Yeah. Well, that'll
And
do it.
I think same for Reddick. Reddick had a pit penalty.
Yeah, he had a penalty that threw him
I
off.
did see
Reddick
the
was
pit penalty.
running away with it until he had a choose cone violation or a pit road entry, whatever they call
I
that.
know, he
pylon.
had
He
an
worked
issue.
his way up to
I
the
know,
teens, but
I
that
know
was about it.
Almirola had an issue where he
Yes.
didn't get the commitment line. Bell had
That's
an
what it was.
issue where he was speeding
Awful.
down or had a slow stop, had to come back down, and then had to go back down again because he sped down pit road.
Yeah.
So Bell was
His
having
car
a
was
rough
bad.
day, and he's normally quick there. So I would say the racing felt solid. Chris Buescher came out of nowhere on that one, and
Yeah.
he was actually the winner of that Bristol race that I went to. That inconveniently enough, the 6 led a bunch of laps, looked really strong, and then here comes the 17. So it really looks like RFK when they're both on, they're both on.
Yes.
And
Yes.
I want to throw in that Buescher did a lot of the short track testing this year from the Ford camp, specifically at like Nashville and some of the other tracks. So not too surprised to see that he had a good day there. But I can't say that I expected Ford to win that race. I can't. Look, your guys is
Well,
as
Ford
SHR.
won that.
all
Ford
everyone-
won that race last year. So Harvick won the Richmond
right.
summer race last year. And if you look at the standings, man, you got in the top 11, Buescher, Logano, Priest, Keselowski, Almirola, Harvick, and Briscoe. Like you got 6 Fords in the top 11.
Right.
And with a Ford winning it last year, I mean, I think now we kind of have enough with this Richmond summer race to go, okay, this is going to be where like the Toyotas show up in the spring, Ford show up at the end of the summer, and there you have it. So, I mean, they were crazy. They weren't fast at the beginning, but the Fords just kind of came on late. And
Right.
all showed up.
Right. I will say after the race this week, they've been doing some testing on some new front spoilers. They've been doing a lot of different work, a lot of different ideas and packages because they're really looking to improve the short track package. So while it wasn't, I fell asleep. I can't say. I mean, there was that pass by Bubba on the restart to get around Tyler and take off, and then of course Bubba passing. But I wasn't able to see if there was too much passing later into the runs. It looked like the fast cars were fast, and when we were in person last year or at the beginning of the year, when the late run hit, and it felt like we watched all the Toyotas just like fight their way up through the field. So it looks like Richmond's starting to become one of the better short tracks, which is very interesting because at the turn of the year or into next gen, I was not the biggest fan of the Richmond track. I liked going because it was the close track to me. But very pretty solid couple Richmond races. So I'm happy with that. And then the testing of the spoiler, if they can fix that, cool. Who won victory lane this week?
Jeffrey.
That would be me.
Do we want to let your guys' opening spiel be the victory?
Well, I was just gonna say that I had a bit. I was gonna be like, yeah, and then Buescher got the win, and also with 1 lap to go, as I swapped him in on my fantasy team, I cruised into victory, and it was a good thing. But regardless, that was Yeah, I took Victory Lane this week, and that was interesting because there was a point during that race where Corey turned to me with his phone and he was like, I am far ahead and whooping y'all's asses in fantasy this week. As we were coming through about to that second stage, and not long after I made that swap within the last 2 laps of the second stage to get Busher, all of a sudden that completely flipped on its head,
And
which
Reddick getting a penalty because I had Reddick.
that changed a whole
That'll do it.
lot on that. But yeah, I mean, as far as actual, victory lane rants, like we've talked enough. Like we'll go with the
I felt like that was that we
Being the
started
case.
with a victory lane rant. So on to Michigan. I
got facts if you want them.
There's a meme that it's the guy going, "I'm in danger in the House of Fire," and if that isn't Alex Bowman and Chase Elliott right now,
oh yeah, buddy.
All right. So here's what's going on, right? We've got, it feels like every road course ringer all going for like the BMF belt right now. They're chomping at the bit. They saw what Shane did. Shane's going to be back at Indy Road Course in 2 weeks. All right, Kobayashi, he's back. There's another, a guy that's currently leading the V8 Supercar points, if I'm not mistaken. Brody, I think is his name. He's going to be racing at Indy. There's going to be a ton of talent at Indy. So if you are a middling road course racer in NASCAR, there's 4 races left, 2 are road courses. So get those out of your mind. You've got to win Michigan or you've got to win Daytona. And man, I've been trying to locate what is wrong with the 48. What is wrong with the 48? I think the biggest issue right now is Saturday. I'm going to call it Saturday speed. I cannot remember the last time I saw the 48 make the second round of qualifying.